Right, we're back with Villaincast. This is episode 6. Then we had to figure out if this was episode 6 then. It's Naqi and Chris. Reap of the week. First, shout out to the sponsors, which actually, this initially was a joke, as in, because everyone who has a big podcast has like a time at the beginning for their sponsors. We obviously don't have any, but we kind of do. So this is a shout out to our sponsors, which is the Patreon. Those people who basically fund the equipment that I use to record all these things. So thank you to them. If anyone's interested in joining onto the Patreon, there will be links in various places. You can definitely find it on my personal website. We offer one-to-one coaching through Zoom, also personalized videos for different tiers on there. So definitely check that out. And also thank you to the Discord channel. You give us these ideas that then me and Naqi talk about each week. You can find this, or obviously you're listening to this podcast already, but we are now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, Podbean, and I'm sure that list is only going to grow. Yes, hello Naqi.
Hola. How are you, Chris?
I'm good, thanks, man. How are you? It's been a while since we last spoke, let alone anything else.
Yeah. You've been busy though. I was listening to that Preet's podcast.
It was a good podcast, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's quite cool.
Yeah, it was good to poke into his head a little more. This podcast that we're doing right now, the next one, or the one after Preet, before this one, if Josh McKinney hasn't come out yet, but that's a really good podcast that should be out before this one hits the airwaves. So definitely check that one out if anyone out there is listening. And then up later on this week, we have Johnny Buck, ex-MMA fighter. He runs Rogue in Asheville, North Carolina. Definitely listen to that podcast because that's going to be a lot of fun. So we've had the Discord channel going in the background at all times. It's growing day by day, and the discussion's getting more and more interesting. The topics that kind of came up this week that I want to talk about is we've kind of like to congealed it all together into one full topic of discussion, and it's regarding sport aspect of jiu-jitsu and how to incorporate the sport aspect of jiu-jitsu even as a beginner, and how to change your mindset from the usual way that BJJ is approached and taught, and how you can kind of modify that to get better outcomes. So the first part I want to talk with Naqi about is the idea of jab cross, and it's obviously something that it's inherent to boxing. Like you throw a left and a right, or a right and a left. Wrestling, they have it, and we'll get back to that a little later in the podcast. But Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's only something maybe that's done at a high level or a high competition level, and even then, it's not. It's only a few like high-level competition coaches that maybe talk about this idea. I know on the Discord channel, there's been numerous people who have mentioned other coaches that have done it, but we aren't interested in that. It's like, how do we then take that information and give it out to everyone? Preet obviously mentored us in this idea, but we're going to talk about it. So,
see, it does exist, man. It does exist, but they don't talk about it in that way. Like the prime example before this stuff, when we did a position like dogfight, and we have the underhook, and we push one way, and we go for the knee tap. If they fall, when they push back, we can roll them. But we've never referred to it as 1-2 until we actually sat down and thought about it. Oh, this is a 1-2, because we're actually faking one way and then going the other.
That's actually quite a good point. Is that obviously, as in like the old school sweep from half guard, because you only had plan B. That's probably one of the only techniques I was ever taught, really, that it was there was this 1-2 option, except it was taught like a singular technique, as in this was the technique, and there wasn't like a free form to it. And this is
I agree. Yes.
where I want to go to with this is that a lot of jiu-jitsu is taught with like straight setups, as in this is my position, this is the middle, and this is the finish. And this is what I want to kind of circle around today, is this idea of a beginning, a middle, and end.
Yeah.
And so usually, especially if you have a seminar of someone or a coach is teaching, they'll teach a beginning, a middle, and an end to a technique. So it's the starting position, a setup, and then there is a finish. Yeah. And then we try and replicate that. And we drill it over and over, beginning, middle, and end. And then we try and do that in a sparring, and it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
No, that's the infuriating thing, is in how many times have you learned a technique in jiu-jitsu and then you never get to use it? Maybe like in the future against a white belt or a beginner or someone who has no idea, who wasn't there on that day.
Yeah.
And you're so excited. But then you've learned a technique and you've had to wait X amount of time to even pull that technique off.
Yeah.
Is there a better way of doing this?
I think, we know that is because our retention rate.
Yes. Well, no, hopefully we have a technique that works. I mean, obviously, we need more feedback by crushing other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, between us, we feel more confident in what we do and how we teach it. Go on.
Yeah. So we spoke about it before, why we see a lot of people leaving jiu-jitsu is the frustration that they can't puzzle the things together. And we've seen it at our club, how now we have a huge retention rate where because we teach them this defensive system first, they're not lost. They know the answer, but they understand they now need to develop the timing. They need to do the active drills, and they'll get there. Not actually, they have to piece everything together themselves. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And if you speak to them as well, they'll tell you that it's because they understand it. Whereas, I know myself, even I didn't understand it when I was about 2 years into it, until the preach stuff came around, and it was that light bulb moment. Oh, yes, this makes sense. You know what I mean? And it just got intriguing, and the progress just went on and on and on, and it's still ongoing because we're always finding new stuff, new things to play with. And just because of them principles, and just because it hasn't been explored before, because the defense has been so easy.
Well, to try and explain then how my teaching methods have changed since even getting my black belt, really, is, and Naqi can attest to this.
Yeah.
And hopefully people can take some of this. Hopefully if they want to try it, give you feedback on it, please comment on wherever this is, or go on the Discord channel. It's probably the best place. Is I came in at a time where I had to learn via YouTube or books or going to different gyms. I've had a coach for a short amount of time, and it was the atypical. Everywhere I went, it was, this is the beginning position. You do something that requires your partner to move in a specific choreographed sequence. Your partner does this and this, and then you have a finish. And then usually the questions that come and arise out of that is, what if they do this? What if they do this? And then you have almost like a Rolodex of techniques where you then, say if you've got like a pass from half guard or a pass from close guard, you then have to go and hunt more passes. You try and I've got now 5 passes from close guard, all for different circumstances. And this is where then I obviously started teaching, because that's all I knew. But over the past couple of years, the way it's kind of changed is that I now teach, there's the beginning, which is the position that we're going to start in, like guard or whatever. And then we're going to look at the end, where we want to end up. So the actual finer details of the sweep or the submission. And then the middle is kind of open to interpretation. So there'll be movements, like we'll work backwards from the position or sweep or submission or pass or whatever. But then we'll have free-forming ideas of how to get there. And this is what I mean about jab cross is, for every situation you think you're in, there is a completely opposite idea. As in, and this is one of the fun things I love to play in or see in people is that when you get stuck into a singular mindset, as in, say if you're in someone's guard and all you're trying to do is pass, try and defend yourself against sweeps and submissions, but you're just trying to pass. You're just throwing jabs.
Yes.
You can sneak in leg locks. I know it's kind of talk though as a dirty word, oh, you didn't pass the guard, you just went for a leg lock. But being able to threaten passing and have their legs move a certain way and then throw a leg lock when the least is suspecting it is that cross. Or become a super obvious, try and like leg lock them. And when they panic that you're going for their legs, pass them. Exactly. Or it's just, I mean, the best setups for a lot of guard submissions are sweeps. Because when someone's massively off balance, they are very susceptible to being submitted. Like if you just try and get someone who's just posture broken, it's very difficult. But when you look at the end product and look at the basic minor holding position before that submission or that sweep or whatever, then you can kind of freeform your way to it. And when you start to incorporate different things together, and like, so I don't want to, I've said this numerous times, I don't like the idea of people doing drills for numbers. It's stupid. But I like the idea that you can look at something once, twice, really get into it, know what you are aiming for, and then take previous knowledge and play with it at various levels of resistance.
Yeah.
So when you're least comfortable with it, have your partner be very compliant, but as you feel more comfortable, and feed back to them. That's so important with jiu-jitsu is conversation during drills. If it's silent, there's something horribly wrong going on.
Yeah.
And say like, oh, can you give me more resistance? And I'm just going to play things. And then like make it a bit more sparring-esque, as in you're going for that triangle, bump them around a little bit, slip their arms, slap them down. Because this is basically where wrestling, it's wrestling. You have, you taught a single leg or double leg preferably, the mighty throw. And then you figure out parries and setups to it. As in, you do knee taps, you do fake snap downs, you do fake arm drags, you do parries, and then you find
angle
various,
off everything.
Exactly, footwork, movement, faking things, and all of a sudden, like they'll move a certain way, bang, you get your double leg. But if you just go hunt that double leg, you're probably not going to get it. But if you say fake a double leg and then I don't know, snap them down or something when they've come down, brilliant. There has to be this play. And again, wrestling had it right. It's not just always taught, start, this is my setup, finish. You taught you finish, the minutiae of a double leg, and then all the different things Setups. You could then figure out. Yeah, play. And it's judo, again, had it kind of right. It's this idea of randori. You're taught the throw, and then you're given drill time, which is not sparring, but it's you're doing the techniques of the day at varying resistance. These two are sports. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, despite how much we are confused about what we are, we don't play these. I know you've done wrestling before as well, haven't you, Naqi? You went to
Ranji's Club.
Yes.
Yeah, Wolverhampton Wrestling Club.
And obviously you've done boxing as well?
Yeah, I did boxing before Jiu-Jitsu and all that. So yeah, I understand stand-up. Done a bit of Muay Thai, but not too much. But basic kicks here and there.
Yeah, and you can see where this was like all fit together.
Yes. Since we've started teaching, how because obviously I started teaching as a blue belt, so quite early in my, jiu-jitsu career, and then I was teaching how you were teaching, and then obviously as you developed, and then I was watching you, and then I was changing my style as well because I could see it working for myself, and I was like, oh, this makes sense. So, if it was making sense to me before, then if it's easier to make sense now, then it's going to make more sense for people to stick around because they're not going to be lost. So, taking all them ideas on, Preet's ideas, like you said, our teaching has completely changed. And I use boxing and just stand-up in general, the concepts of stand-up so much now before Corona when I started teaching. And even now when I'm looking at techniques in jiu-jitsu or wrestling and I'm thinking, it's stand up. It's exactly the same. They're using setups to get to the end goal. And there's feints, there's jabs, and the equivalent of a jab, you can have in jiu-jitsu as well. You're always
Exactly.
coming forward. You know what I mean? And
well, I think that's an interesting.
It's hard for people. I think it's hard for people to understand when they're learning one way and to come out of that and then to take another stance because somebody else says it works. I don't know. Some people will give it a try, and I think the people who do give it a try do tend to stay on. I haven't met anybody yet who's used this new method of learning and basically gone back to what they were doing before. I haven't met anybody like that yet.
I think one of the interesting parts as well is it's not just about tying outcomes together like sweeps or submissions. I think there's also a lot of play in the middle, and this is like very prevalent in guard. And again, I've been to these gyms where close guard is a prime example, and you can see a lot of jiu-jitsu ideas in close guard, where all they can do is posture. It's just posture, 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 and every pass you've ever seen is stand-up posture. And so you get your head broken down, and you just try and posture. You try and hand fight them, and just try and posture again. And this is like jabbing repeatedly. What if you could stack in? If they broke your posture, go forwards. And then all of a sudden they want to push you away. Well, then you got your posture back. They gave you your posture back because they were like, no, screw this. I don't want to have my head crushed anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's another taboo thing, ain't it? Like, people don't stack in close guard. I forget about it because that's all we do now.
I know, exactly. It's funny. Like, being around people who only do posture, it's like, this is crazy. Like, I'll pull you down, your posture, I'll pull you down, posture, I'll pull you down, your posture. Unless you do it the third time, I'm just going to bump you over. It's like you telegraphed your plans so many times. But it's not just that. Like shrimping, I can't wait to go back in the gym because I really want to do this video. If you listen to this podcast and the video hasn't out, look out for it. If you listen to this and the video is out, please do check it because I've been so excited to make this video. Is you can shrimp, and like say if you're trying to do some guard retention, and so people are going to like push against your arm, push against your legs, and try and rock you back onto your back again. Except then you'll fight to the death to get that shrimp because all you have is a shrimp. This is a jab. There should be a cross, and the cross is running man, rolling away. And if it's the kind of problem that we've kind of had in our gym where everyone gets so good at running man that people are now really fast at hunting the far elbow to stop them from rolling away.
Exactly, man. It's like,
so what's the answer? Shrimp.
It's like we were talking about this on that Discord the other day, and I was like, I have to, when we were rolling pre-COVID and all that, I have to apologize to them when I'm on top because to stop them running away, you have to basically sit on their hips. There has to be so much pressure. And you have to catch that far knee or far elbow. Yeah. And, if they start running, you ain't going to catch them. They're all over the place.
No.
They're in guard or they're really standing up and you're like, oh, man, this isn't nice.
But if someone does catch your elbow when you're trying to go for a running man or trying to roll away, like they can't push you and pull you at the same time. So if they're pulling you back, shrimp. Like, exactly. This is what makes it infuriating is that if you're just taught one option, like posture or shrimp, and you're never taught the other side, the other 50%, you're literally being taught how to punch with one hand and never taught how to use your second hand. It makes you exceptionally predictable. But then if you try and tie in like use the guard analogy, posture and stack and pass and leg lock, like these are jabs, crosses, hooks, and uppercuts. Like you can make such a great combo. So instead of this like singular teaching of jiu-jitsu of I must posture and then put my knee in their butthole and then separate the feet and pass and then open the legs and then do a double unders.
Yeah.
No. Oh my God. If you're just doing this sequence of, and this is all you have of beginning, middle, and end, like, that's predictable. The fight goes on and you get back to the guard, you go for it again. It's like, oh my life, I can now count the shit out of you. But if you can
Exactly.
figure out how to play like jabs, crosses, and hooks and uppercuts to what they're doing, like man, you become so difficult to deal with.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and so this kind of then leads on to the question of stand up. Is like a few people have started asking us on Discord, it's like, how do you take Preet's teachings or whatever this defensive jiu-jitsu or like whatever we're saying and carry it over to stand up? And what makes it even funnier is a lot of this is stand up.
Yeah,
We took ideas from stand up
yeah,
and brought them to the ground. And this is
yeah,
what I think I said on the defensive BJJ, how to defend everything in BJJ video that did Globetrotters camp, is grilled chicken, like the initial kind of position. I think me and Preet look at it a bit differently. I see grilled chicken as like you can rotate it all over, like rotisserie chicken. But the guard position of having your knees next to your elbows and like the core principle of not letting anyone behind your head, in your armpits, or behind your knees, that like stand up in that exact same position, it's wrestling or guard passing. Like it's the grilled chicken position is just a wrestler's stance fallen over, and all the principles remain the same. You
yeah,
have to jab cross, you have to change levels, you have to attack behind the knees, behind the head or the armpits, and then control them. Like, how is that any different to wrestling? We have taken wrestling principles, sport principles, and taken it to the ground, and actually it's kind of funny that it's kind of been lost in translation that all of this is stand-up sport game taken to the
yeah.
ground. Like, how do you take it down? How do you apply it to stand-up? It was stand-up.
Yeah, exactly. It's all the same, man. We say this all the time. Whenever I teach, I always say it is stand up. If you understand stand up, you understand grappling. It's just because it's been lost in the way it's been taught in so many different styles. But I mean, thankfully now it's coming back to that style of learning, and hopefully, it'll probably be for the better when we have more people training jujitsu or grappling. Did we
hopefully,
say?
hopefully, yeah. And like, I think kind of going on to the nomenclature of jiu-jitsu or grappling or wrestling, I think it's I think I spoke about this with Josh, and it's problematic in that I may have dreamt it. I have no idea. Things have happened since then. Uh, and yeah, so grappling is like a large block of mass, whatever you want to look at it as. And every grappling based art, so judo, Greco, freestyle, catch, uta livre, no gi jiu-jitsu, gi jiu-jitsu, submission only wrestling, is all just blocks off that initial block.
Yeah,
Like, we've taken a smaller section of that bigger mass and then put it separately. Yeah, the size of the block is dictated by the rule set, and the size of the rule set that has taken a smaller section. So wrestling, with it being no submissions and no cloth and put someone on their back, is a certain section.
yes,
Judo, not being able to touch the legs, only being able to grip the gi or whatever from standing, and having 15 seconds on the floor, whatever it is a different section, small section. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where like IBJJF, gi, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's okay, takedowns, so it incorporates a bit of judo, a bit of wrestling,
yeah.
a lot of ground fighting, but then no legs, no leg locks, dirty
Oh
technique.
yes. No.
Exactly. And so I think if you can look at the concept as a whole, it
Yeah.
applies to all these different fragments of grappling. Because if it applies to the big sludge of grappling, it should apply to the rest of grappling. And so
Indeed.
try to take the ideas of like what Preet is talking about here or in wrestling and then try and apply it somewhere else. It should be universal. It should just go across because it's grappling concept, not style concept.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I may
It's
have just
true.
talked for ages. Yeah.
No, but the rules do definitely limit, what you can do, what you can't do. And if you can understand it, like you said, as a whole, you will understand grappling and you will progress much faster and much quicker.
Exactly. Especially when the rules don't make sense.
No
I
leg
don't.
locks.
I'm not a expert on judo history by any stretch of the imagination. But to my knowledge, they were getting wrecked by people who could touch the legs, like wrestlers and gis. And so they took legs out. Because I used to train at a judo school, and they taught a double leg, like a old school judo double leg. And I was like, you guys can do this? And they're like, yeah, but you can't do it in competition. I was like, oh, that's strange. And I see old judo videos, pictures or whatever of them playing Delahiva and stuff like that. It's like, holy hell. And this is where kind of like the fun thing about leg locks comes in as well. Again, I'm not an expert historian. I have no idea. But for anyone interested, like, to my knowledge on leg locks is it's actually based on a bit of, I may be wrong. I'm hand on heart. Please correct me. I am a fan of history, and this is all hearsay and stuff like that. So if you've got better knowledge than I have, please comment and correct me. I will offer a redaction or whatever in the next episode of Reap the Week if I've made any mistakes.
Go on, I'll hear
Black
this.
belts make mistakes. No. So to my knowledge, when you had the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, Gi Jiu-Jitsu, whatever, wars with Luta Livre, it was based, like, a lot of it was like kind of based on class warfare. So you had the gi guys, like you had to have like some money to afford a gi.
Okay.
Like, they're not cheap. Consider early 1900s, like early mid 1900s. Luta Livre, which was like developing at the exact same time, was you didn't need a gi. It was the poor man's martial art.
Okay.
And it's based, like, Luta Livre is based on British catch wrestling, and British catch wrestling had a bit of leg locks in it. And so these like fights in between Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Gi Jiu-Jitsu, and Luta Livre were kind of like based on like classism. Like, it was the richer middle class, whatever, students versus the poorer ones. And so that's why that Luta Livre, who had the leg locks, like, if they won with a leg lock, it's considered the poor man's technique, the dirty thief of grappling.
Interesting.
It's because it was done by poor people. And so it then attracted all these like weird, like Dan Ho, I think, said something funny about it. Like, people say, oh, leg locks don't work, or they're too dangerous. Well, which one is it? Like, they can't be both. So there's like weird superstitions like with leg locks, but it's based on, it was a technique employed by poor people, poor grapplers, and that just like boggled my mind again, because you had these weird rule sets, going back to the original purpose of this, weird fragments of grappling arise, and no one can even figure out why. Like, these fragments have even like shrunk down even more. Like, why aren't we playing legs in jiu-jitsu? Like, back to the beginning. It's obviously not a danger problem. Loads of people playing leg locks. So why isn't it missing? It's based on class. Why aren't judo guys touching their legs anymore? It's because they're getting wrecked by people who are really good at grabbing the legs. And they're limiting their sport. They're taking their cube of off the grappling. They're taking their branch off the grappling tree and they're shaving more off it. It's like, it's horrible to watch. Back full circle. If you understand the full concepts of grappling, though, it shouldn't matter. You can take it across anywhere, and you'll be able to use it. Did you see? I'm not talking about. I will talk about the afterwards, actually. The news of the weekend. Galvao and Gordon. But actually, I want to talk about Gordon hunting on Mount first. I don't know if you've not even seen the full fight. I imagine some people have seen the clips on Instagram or wherever of him hunting those mounted arm bars. Did you see him open the crap out of the armpits beforehand?
Exactly.
Peeled those things high above the head. Like, His whole
Exactly.
transitions were like bang, bang, bang. These armpits are staying open and pinching him to your ears.
And
Like,
here,
oh
see
my
how he's
god,
moving up. He was just creeping up, and then the S mount, and boom.
oh my god. It was like
I know a lot of people
considering
are saying his first attempt that Gordon basically no Jimenez defended it. I don't know, man. I think Gordon just didn't want to break his arm, and that's why I think the second one he didn't give him any space. He just went for it.
considering the madness I've had screaming recently about Mount, and I actually have a video on Mount. It's either going to have dropped before or after this video very shortly. Might even drop like whilst we're recording this. But yeah, just to have that, like, yes, this is what I've been screaming about. Like, for someone to say, like, mounted no-gi doesn't work. Like, yes, it doesn't work the way gi mount is taught. Like, you can't just sit on someone's hips and just open up their arms. It just doesn't compute. But this climbing up them, always opening up their armpits as you move.
Yeah.
Like, yes, this is it does work. It's a brilliant position. It's a consolidation position.
Yeah.
Oh, it felt so good. But just to shoot the shit, like Galvao and Gordon, what did you think?
Oh man, I don't know.
I know, man. It's hard to comment.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know why Galvao flipped him off. I mean, I don't know what happened there. But I think, after that, I don't know. Was Galvao on his phone or did he follow Gordon? I'm not sure about that. But either way, they said something to each other, or I think Galvao says he called him a pussy or something like that. Anyway, but I think when the slap happens, I think Galvao should have reacted. In my opinion, I mean, I'm not, I'm not claiming to be a saint or anything, but he put hands on his face, and I think that means go time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, play a bit of devil's advocate, considering the amount of people watching, cameras watching, and everything like that. I think the fact that he didn't and made sure it didn't descend into just a full brawl, like in front of. I mean, we're always, we're trying to climb out of MMA's shadow. We're trying to climb out of the shadow of, savages, like who congregate in weird places and hurt each other. We're trying to look as friendly and as welcoming as we can. MMA is doing okay with that. Occasionally, you have the mad stuff happen, and it does maybe set us back a little bit. It's not much, but you can see where the arguments will come from.
The opposite side to that is it's fighting. There's adrenaline, there's testosterone, and there's all sorts, and you'd expect it to kick off. But for example, if you're watching something like football or something, and when you see these footballers fall over and start fighting, and you think, this is, you don't want to see it there because you're playing football. Do something with the football. You know what I mean?
I guess it doesn't hurt their reputation.
Exactly. But when your fighters, there's all sorts of things on the line, egos, all that other stuff going on, and there's cameras. You've got to react. What's going to happen afterwards. It could. Look at the hype it's created, though. Do you think Galvao will say yes now? What do you think?
I think, I think it'd be hard for him to like back out of it now.
Yeah, he has to, man. I think he has to.
Yeah. To put everything down, like also then like get like backhanded the way he was, like if he backs up, it's going to look quite painful.
Really bad, yeah.
It was unfortunate. I don't know if it's too much of a black eye in our sport, but it kind of, like, as Craig Jones joked, it's like Gordon still stole the main event. Didn't let him have that time in the sun. Like, does anyone remember even Craig Jones fighting? Like, Gordon won, I saw his Instagram afterwards. Galvao. And then Craig Jones was in there somewhere. What do you think about returning? Like, how hopeful are you of things resuming some form of normality when we get back? Do you think people will return into jiu-jitsu in the UK, or do you think there'll be a bit of a lull before it happens? Do you think people will be worried about COVID like now, or do you think the perceptions of it have passed, and people are just going to jump like out into clubs and pubs and jump out into gyms and pretty much try and return to normal as fast as possible when we're allowed to? Do you think jiu-jitsu will recover, or do you think there's going to be a bit of a lull where it's just going to be savages?
I think jiu-jitsu is going to boom, I think. And I think there's a few reasons for that. Number one, people have put weight on, and the prominence of MMA, jiu-jitsu and everything. You know, MMA was only when people were sitting at home. UFC was the only sport in the world that was operating. You know, the amount.
To be fair, that's not too far off.
You know what I mean? The amount of fans they would have probably made potentially. You know, people who and obviously people who research online as well and see the testimonies of people who do jiu-jitsu and who do MMA and stuff. You know, but it could also go the other way. It's hard to judge what people's perceptions are at the moment. You know, some people, follow all the rules and believe everything. Some people believe everything but don't follow the rules. And so I don't know, man. It depends who you talk to.
Well, this is kind of like where I want to go with the question. Is obviously it's a topic you can discuss with anyone if you think jiu-jitsu is going to return the way it was. Yeah. But what I'm interested in is that, in this kind of like quiet time where only a few gyms have been training like in the world or whatever, a few countries, should I say, Preet stuff's really like taken off. And a lot of our Discord members are UK based, which has surprised me. I remember when we first started doing the Preet stuff, like he was coming over to visit us like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like
a lot of Europeans.
I had to convince so many people of nearby gyms like, oh, this guy's pretty legit. And now the amount of people who like contacted me up and down the UK saying, where are you guys based? Like, I'm interested in coming to feel this stuff.
We want to come roll.
Like, and this is what I'm thinking is like, if people do return to jiu-jitsu and it recovers after COVID and people start traveling, I'm really excited to see where this stuff goes. Like, the more people working on it, the more brains we have attached to this.
Oh, man, I'm interested to see. Compete. I can't wait to compete.
Oh, dude, it's going to be so interesting. I want to like find a way of like keeping tabs of anyone, and I maybe the Discord channel is the best place for us, especially with us, like of how people are doing with this as they come back, and how maybe coaching has changed. Like people are like explaining it to new. If there's going to be a big influx of new people, how are these like gyms that are starting to adopt this going to change how they're doing it? And I'd love to hear the feedback of how that actually changes as well on this new influx of beginners. And so, if anyone's like listening to this, like, I don't know, actually, you'd be surprised, Naqi. Like, I obviously get the stats of people listening to this, and it's hundreds.
Wow.
Like across the podcast, it's like we're getting a lot of listens. And I'm like,
nice, man.
Oh my God. Like, why?
Somebody wants to listen to us chat shit.
Like, why?
For an hour every week.
There's poor people. I can imagine driving to work or something, just like wanting to listen to me and you talk. Like,
reap the week.
Oh, Jesus. Like, it's poor folks. But anyway, to those unfortunate people who find like us interesting to listening to whilst commuting or doing whatever. Please go on the Discord channel. I'll try and make sure that the link is more prevalent.
It's good fun.
But definitely go on it. Like, even if you don't contribute, if you don't have any questions to ask or you don't read the messages or anything like that, just leave us feedback of like how things are going. I read every message on there, even if I don't reply. Oh, it is. I know you love chatting to everyone.
Some of the other members, who are in there, the people in there, it's good. They're contributing and they're answering some of the questions for us. I'm like, this is sick. People understand what we're on about.
That's a weird little brain trust, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm like, I agree with this guy. Yes, you're on the same wavelength to you.
Yeah. And it's good because it's no longer just us figuring it out. It's a growing community of like, especially as when I was talking to Preet about it. I don't think it was on the public podcast, but I know we talked quite a bit before and afterwards, and like that thing's grown in the exact same way. And I said it's amazing that we're going to have so many people like working on this. It's not just him and his little gym or bigger gym now. It's so many more people, and any way I can kind of tap into those people who are playing all these ideas, playing these new coaching methods, like who are listening to Danaher and Lachlan and their coaching ideas. Like, I'd love to get their feedback on the Discord. So if you are listening to this, if you some reason find what we are talking about interesting, please, even if you don't like offer questions or anything, just give us feedback about how you're doing. Like, I'm interested, and we are interested. Like, please jump onto that. There's a new Reap the Week every week. I'm sure our content will be even richer the more people who go on the Discord channel. And when we get back in the gym, because we've got so much stuff to play with Naq.
Oh, yes.
I just sit thinking about jiu-jitsu and like getting smarter on it.
That's not a good thing for us.
Well, no, because and this is what's always fun, is that like applying these concepts is making me like look deeper into my own jiu-jitsu, even at black belt level. Like, such simple concept ideas, being able to actually then use them and still apply them to what I'm doing, and then allows me to delve deeper into why I'm doing certain things, and then tweak it still. Like, changes my whole idea of what a black belt meant. Like, it's nowhere near like completing it. It's just being able to think more clearly about why I'm doing certain things. And so I'm interested to show you the stuff I'm working on, and what I've been playing like around with in my head, and see if it works, and also what you're doing.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, hopefully we'll be back in the gym soon, dude. Otherwise, this has been Reap the Week with the Villain. And how do you pronounce it? El Jefe.
El Jefe.
I thought so. I didn't want to say, oh, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Like, I
Hello,
thought
Jeff.
it was. But it's like, obviously I'd written it, but I didn't want to like get like, it's like when you see someone's name written down and okay, make it easier. Like, might as well do this publicly. Why El Jefe?
Funny story. A few reasons. Obviously, it means the boss in Spanish.
Okay. I didn't know that.
My name, my actual real name, Naqi, means chief or leader. So the actual meaning of my name is the boss as well.
Right.
How I behave around, the responsibilities I've got outside of jiu-jitsu, I'm a boss. And how I feel, I think when I roll and when I compete, I have a different persona. I wanted to separate it. And I thought, because the guy who rolls and the guy who competes, he's a different guy to my actual how I live my life. But that boss element is there in me, that, the winning element. I always want to be a winner. That element is always in me. And I thought, let's find what's in trend. So Spanish is in trend at the moment. So I thought, why not?
Actually, that's quite interesting. You should say that. Is obviously we've both got a bit of competition experience, and we've spoken to other competitors. Next, Reap the Week. Please do feedback if people want to actually listen to this. Then it lets me know that people are actually listening to this. Talking about how we both mentally prepare for competitions.
Yeah,
I think that'd be interesting. I know you just kind of slightly touched on it but I've got like my own little things that I do, especially like if people are getting into competing.
Yours people are gonna love. I know that much.
Oh, dude, it sounds. I like when I start explaining what I do to like mentally prepare for competitions to people, they think I'm a nutter. So may as well put it out to everyone. So next Reap the Week in 1 week's time. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about mental preparation for competitions.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a fun little thing to play with, especially getting other people's ideas on it, and whatever else comes out of the Discord channel. But if anyone who like, hasn't heard how I got the nickname the Villain, it's Preet. Obviously, I went for so long without a nickname in jiu-jitsu that eventually, when I met Preet, he heard me laugh, especially when it seems to be when I'm causing someone misery. And he said, I laugh like a comic book villain, like a cartoon supervillain, criminal. And it's kind of then stuck that I was like, I called the villain. I'm not a bad person. I don't think.
No, you're a lovely guy, Chris.
Other people could probably say different. But yeah, that's where the villain came from. So okay, so it's not El Jeff.
No.
El Jefe and the villain speak the week. Thank you for giving us your time.
Yeah.
Cheers, Naqi.
Cheers. See you in a bit, Chris.
Take care, dude.